So good evening, everyone. It's really a pleasure to start with this presentation, and thanks to Lisa Doyle and Professor Alexander Fein for inviting me here at the online, but at the Classical Association of Ireland. So I'm an archaeologist, as Professor Alexander Fein just mentioned. So I try to introduce to this topic that is really a topic, my topic of research. And so could archaeology be something that could be on prescription? And we will see it, and I will try to introduce it to you. Since probably you have various backgrounds, I try to introduce this topic by providing some context about participation in cultural heritage and well-being, and then moving more specifically to how archaeology started to work on well-being. And then to conclude, the last part is about LOGGIA, and that is the project on which I'm currently working on at Trinity College Dublin. So participation and well-being. These are really two interconnected concepts, because when we talk about well-being, it's something that of course can touch everyone, because we engage with something, we care about something, and we try to get involved with something, or with some cultural activities, or at the same time with somebody. For example, here in the picture we have a guy who worked on the right, who worked with us in Tuscany on excavation. You can see here an excavation, and he is showing probably to his father what he did during the week he spent with us on field work. And this is in a way something simple, but something really significant, because he's not an archaeologist, the guy, and but he acts like an archaeologist, explaining to his father what he did. And in a way, indirectly, he is taking care about the excavation, the project, and he's showing to his father something that probably he is not part of his daily life. So this is a really simple encounter that is happening on the edge of the field of the excavation, but it's something that I think it's good to start with this picture, because it's really relevant of the approach I'm going to adopt also in my research project. So what is participation in the heritage studies? Participation within the heritage arena is generally considered to mean the active involvement of stakeholders within a range of processes and projects. And this definition, I like this definition because it highlights the active involvement. That is something I'm going to show you in a moment, what we mean by active involvement. So in general, participation is now a really hot topic, if I can say so. Okay, and it's something that it is really on all documents from the EU, such as the Faro Convention, but also from the high spheres of EU policies to the small communities where participation really happened. on field. It is something, it is a concept that is really timely now in this period, because I think it's not only me, it's research who show that after the COVID-19 pandemic, the citizens are eager to spend time doing outdoor activities in company and doing these activities together. I see a lot of for example, people who organize hikings also in Ireland, but also in Italy, and then also other kind of cultural activities, from simple guided tours and to some more active kind of involvement. In archaeology, but also in other fields. And I think now there is this, they started again all these activities after COVID in person. This is very important, and they really, they really call upon participation. And so it is also a topic of research, both in heritage studies and in archaeology. And studies, doing research, the research on participation started already since some years, but now I think after COVID, it started again in a very renewed spirit, a new approach. For example, here in the Faro Convention, which is the convention on the value of cultural heritage for society, it is very important because it recognizes the right for everyone to benefit from cultural heritage, and framing the concept of heritage community. A heritage community consists of people who value specific aspects of cultural heritage. And this is a very important concept because it reminds us that archaeology has a relational value as well as an intrinsic one, of course. So monuments are important, are really significant because of their history, their importance in the in landscape, but they are also important because they can create, people can attach value to them, and each person probably has a different relationship with a monument, with an object, with remains come from the past. So this is a very important concept. And so, and Faro Convention also reminds us that this participation, the heritage in general can foster an economic and social climate which supports really participative actions. In Italy, the Faro Convention was ratified really recently, but I mean its values, they are on the fore since a lot of time. And finally, we managed to ratify the convention. To go on, this is what I want to, what I mean when I talk about the importance of the Faro Convention. This is what really happens on the field when we do activities with the public. I mean, maybe I don't know people with a background in other disciplines, but we have an image in Italy, especially of the archaeologists as a specialist, as a scholar who is closed in a when it is not on excavation, is closed in a room studying his pottery. And then I mean not really a profession that that sees somebody. I mean, an archaeologist is not talking a lot with people, but really is really focused on the study of the materials. But I mean, in the last over the last 2 decades, I think archaeology in general worldwide tried to change this image, and in this way, I mean, by by getting engaged and with people, with any kind of public, and also with the territory, the areas where excavations and other researches take place. There are plenty of opportunity now, from the involvement of citizens as reenactors to the organization of research campaigns, and also activities like this with children. Here, my colleague is showing them some pottery after they after an activity of survey that these children did on the field. So it's something that it's kind of activities where they can touch the ancient findings. So when I say that over the last 2 decades, archaeology started getting engaged with a broader society much more than before, in a much more structured way, I would say, it is something that it is related with the development of public archaeology as an area of archaeological activity, and both practice and scholarship, where archaeologists interact, but at the potential to interact with the public. And public archaeology is like an umbrella term that is quite well illustrated, very well illustrated in these infographics from Gabriel Mozienska. And each of these boxes represent an area of interest of public archaeology. Can range from popular archaeology, so how are archaeologists represented on televisions, for example, or on in museums exhibition, also archaeological education, so formal and informal learning about archaeology in schools, museums, online, and then also public open archaeology, our archaeological work that is made publicly accessible through viewings, platforms, and so on. When we talk about participation, we talk more about the first 2 boxes. So archaeology with the public, archaeology made by the public, where archaeology really try to get connected with people. And this kind of study is usually defined as community archaeology. And that has many definitions, but I like this one that says that acts to develop the relationship between people and place. So there is also an ultimate objective in doing this kind of projects. When we talk about archaeology and participation in archaeology, I said before that there are the active participation and another one that we can call passive, but I like more receptive participation. And it is this one for the public. I call here for the public, participation for the public. So it's a kind of participation where, for example, we have open days, like in this photo on the left, where there is an archaeologist who is introducing the archaeological site to the public in a normal guided tour on the excavation. And these kind of activities usually can happen in a specific day, or can happen whenever some people come to the excavation and want to know more about the works ongoing there. But it's already, and then there is like a conference where there are archaeologists, the experts talking to other experts most of the time, or other people in any case. But there is always a monodirectional communication in this kind of activities. And then there is an active participation where members of the public, at least non-archaeologists, really get engaged with the past. And one of the most powerful ways, of course, is the reenactment. Here we have an Italian reenactment group for the Lombards. So like in the medieval times, like 6th to 7th century. This one, the person in the center is an archaeologist by background, but then there are other two friends of him, of course, who participated with him in the reenactment of Lombard village in Friuli, so in north east Italy. They do a lot of activities. They try, for example, to work on ancient routes with the reproduction of original shoes, and they try how long these shoes work until they get broken. And so they try to adopt an experimental archaeology approach, and then it's an activities who they can do together with other people, and they do a lot of stuff in this way. They are very proactive in trying to set up initiatives for the wider public, but also sometimes for archaeologists by organizing conferences and so on. Another kind of active involvement is, of course, fieldwork. So in this other example, there is this American volunteer who is washing some pottery in Poggio del Molino in Italy. The same example that I mentioned before, just to say, for the open day, just to say that, of course, this kind of participation, active and receptive, could go, of course, so can go together. But there are also, of course, many other examples. This is just to show some very, very good example of active and receptive participation. That has nothing to do directly with well-being, but we will see that in a way they are very well connected with it. As part of my PhD, I did a research together with Francesca Benetti and Caterina Moller on the opinions of archaeology on archaeologists on participation. And this is a research that compares the results from Italy, Britain, and German. Here in this table are reported benefits and disadvantages of participation. For example, the main benefit, these are the results for Italy, and the main benefits, perceived benefit, is educational purpose, as you can see, and then improvement in heritage protection. While among the disadvantages, we have threat to the profession and then known. Of course, those who respond to these questionnaires probably are pro-participation, but in any case, we can see that in this questionnaire, the results of these questionnaires, which dates back to 2018, no archaeologists probably mentioned well-being among the benefits. Maybe now the result would be different after COVID, could be, because now the context in general has considerably changed. Following the participative approach just mentioned in the previous slide, the cultural sector fosters people needs. And now, after this period of social distancing, I think this growing demand for outdoor activities and to do in company, I think there is much more interest in also among the archaeologists in this topic of well-being, and we can easily see how archaeology can really foster people well-being. But in any case, I'm going to show it you in a moment what are the main examples. over the last few years, the interest with well-being has grown a lot in the arts, especially. Probably you know about doctors prescribing to their patients visits to museums, but also within, in general, the humanities, the social sciences. And also this interest really reached big organization like the World Health Organization, which published a report recently with the title, "What is the evidence on the role of the arts in improving health and well-being?" That is accessible on the web, and it touches many disciplines, so maybe you can be interested in having a look. And then also the European Union, more recently, which started a preparatory action on culture and well-being in 2020. And now the relevance of cultural access for people is confirmed by researchers, which found out that a cultural access is ranked immediately after health status, that is the absence of presence of disease, as the second most important psychological well-being determinant. So this is, I think, a very important point. This report that I show here on the right, that is mentioned Culture for Health, it is just been released in November, and this project, this scoping review, touches many points, clarifies the importance and the role of culture for well-being and health, presents the existing knowledge and a mapping of the most relevant existing practices and projects, and outlines also capacity building initiatives and policy recommendations. I think what is interesting is that they subdivided more than 300 projects in different categories, and they did it in order to highlight specific characteristics of these projects. And the review shows that more than 2/3 of the studies refers to art-based interventions that actively involve the beneficiaries in the creative process. And the most effective type of interventions in terms of health and well-being seem to rely on active participation. And although receptive participation is also found to produce valuable effects, for example, in case of with experiences of listening to music and watching visual artworks, the vast majority of studies show that active engagement with arts and creative activities was necessary to produce health and well-being outcomes. So this report, maybe you can find something of your interest because it touches many fields: music, theater, dance, visual arts, literature, circus activities, and clowning, photography and film, creative activities, museums and art venues, architecture, heritage and design. Here I report theater and photography just to show you some, to understand how it works. I mean, they try to show that, to report that theater as active participation in drama activities, for example, foster cooperation and communication skills. Theater is often used for health communication. Photography is used as therapeutic support for people with mental illness, and photography activities enable self-expression, for example, and so on. So there are all these kind of results that are supported by research, and I think this is a very important report to start with if we want to talk about well-being. One last part, just to conclude this part about the context, is about some of the policy recommendation included in the report. The report show that suggests to include culture as an integral part of the EU's health strategy and as a core pillar of its upcoming mental health strategy, to promote the use of culture-based social prescribing across the EU, to recognize cultural activities as complementary to traditional medical responses, to raise awareness of the evidence and of the cost effectiveness of supporting cultural activities for health and well-being, and also to highlight that cultural activities can also contribute to removing social and cultural barriers that impede such disease prevention and treatment. So basically, they don't say, of course, that these kind of activities can replace normal prescribing, but of course can help the patients to feel better, and on the long term, they can help really addressing some problems, some disease that now they are only addressed at a later stage when maybe the pathology is ongoing from a long time, since a long time. Now, I try to just give a brief overview on what is the research on this topic, but now I will talk more about archaeology, of course. Archaeology is not mentioned in the report, and I think from a point of view, this is surprising in a way that archaeology already started doing some projects on well-being, and then also as an outdoor activities. Of course, we can easily imagine and figure out that can have a well-being. Can have some positive impact on people's well-being, but on the other side, archaeologists struggled a lot to show the benefit of archaeology to the contemporary society, and also that so from this point of view, it's not surprising that archaeology is not mentioned in the report. Why archaeology can support people's well-being? Faye Sawyer says that archaeological excavations proactively engage individuals with their heritage, connect people, and help them to learn. So heritage does have a beneficial social role, and active participation can influence personal well-being. Anybody who has participated in an archaeological excavation can, I think, can endorse this quote. And when you are in excavation, you really manage to connect with people to the person also that is alongside you digging, and then you enjoy really the physical activities and the fact that you are outdoor, maybe many times in another place than the one of your daily life. And this is to say that archaeology can benefit everyone, starting from archaeologists, but also students, any people who gets engaged with it. And this researcher, Faye Sawyer, did a research in 2015 on students, for example. One of the targeted group was students, were the students, and she managed to show that some key findings: physicality, so the involvement in physical activities can result in participants feeling stronger and more active. Connectivity, as I said, incorporating community elements into project can really enable people to feel more connected to the people around them and also with the place. Satisfaction, personal happiness, of course, particularly in student training project, is associated with satisfaction. And also the fact that this is related to interest and discoveries, such as finds. So when you when you find out something on the excavation, you are really satisfied. And then social dynamics. So as a drawback, because sometimes on an excavation, social dynamics are not easy if you don't find the right team, let's say, or the right people that you like to stay in company with. And so these social dynamics sometimes can cause unhappiness, when there is friction between individuals. So this is something that she studied in this research, to show the effects of archaeology on people living in excavation. And this is one of the first studies about archaeology and well-being. As many opportunities of these kind of activities, there are opportunities for participants. Among confirmed outcomes, I already mentioned something. There are reduced anxiety and depression's level, improved mood and emotional regulation, social inclusion and bonding. For archaeology, of course, because archaeology, by involving more people with this kind of project, can widen the groups of stakeholders involved, also vulnerable groups, and demonstrate it more easily, more clearly, its impact on contemporary society. And then also for the health sector. So as I said, heritage interventions are not a panacea, but showed benefits in terms of prevention and health promotion. So in any case, many policies says that the EU needs to invest more in prevention because as an average, it is the 2.8% of the total health expenditure, but in the way, by fostering and promoting these kind of activities, maybe we can try to help also prevention and also archaeologists. How it works. So coming to practice, usually we, in this kind of project, you identify a target group, an objective. So for example, we want to work with elders or with children or vulnerable groups like people with suffering from dementia. And then we have an objective. It could be to have to get the children engaged with their past, could be to provide the stimulations to people with dementia, and so on. And then based on this objective, you try to design an activity as a non-medical intervention. For instance, people can get engaged in excavations. Of course, that is the most popular way in archaeology, but also post-excavation works, surveys, and working in the historic landscapes. And that, for example, here, these two people are excavating together. The one, I'm not going to say who is who, but one is an archaeologist, one is an archaeologist, and one is a person who is a veteran, war veteran. So, and then as a the research part, we have the evaluation of the activities. So we have to use quantitative or qualitative methods analysis, better mixed method analysis, a combination of both, to measure the impact of the activities, and also how I can produce some change on the people who are participating in my program. So this is also very important. I start with some example. So this is a very famous, probably the most famous project on archaeology and well-being. It's called Operation Nightingale. It is the first project to try to combine archaeology and people who are war veterans. So in this project, the Minister of Defense of the United Kingdom partnered with Wessex Archaeology, that is a company, an archaeological company, and they worked on this on many different excavations, especially in the in Salisbury and in the region of Salisbury, and so they found out that that living in excavation, digging alongside archaeologists was very beneficial for war veterans, especially in fighting in addressing the post-traumatic disorders. And so this was really very important and a pioneer project in this field. Then they managed to over the years to establish a model, a successful way to engage with veterans, and they try to export in a way to this model in other settings. So they worked in Cyprus now, always with in the British sovereign area, in the Akrotiri Peninsula. And so there are people who experience the Operation Nightingale, and they started now doing this kind of the same project in Cyprus with always with British veterans in the Dreamers Bay excavation. Another very important project is Waterloo Uncovered. This one takes place in Belgium, in the battlefield of Waterloo, where Napoleon lost his last battle against his coalition of enemies, among them in the United Kingdom. And so Waterloo Uncovered, that is a registered charity, organized yearly these kind of programs where war veterans are engaged in excavation together with archaeologists, and they really did very good research, publishing yearly report with the benefits and the drawbacks sometimes, of course, who identified on the during these programs. And so this project started in 2015 and still ongoing, and there is a very big interest, great interest on it. And for example, this year, talking about number, providing some more information, they support more than 50 veterans. And this is a very huge number, because in most of the cases, these kind of projects that are now I mean, they are much more widespread now than some years before, but they really required a lot of interaction, of organization with people, with professionals from the healthcare sector, for example. And so it is very, they required a lot of personnel involved to take care of each participant's needs. So 50 veterans over a long time, of course, it's a very huge number. I see some messages in the chat, sorry, maybe, okay. I talked a lot about war veterans because there are many projects working on it, but also of course, there are other project working with other target groups. For example, this was a project involving homeless people in York and Bristol. This was a doctoral research from an archaeologist. Now, in a moment, I will come to remind the name. Sorry. And then this project is very original because it uses archaeological methodologies to collaboratively document how contemporary homeless people use and experience cities. So they really they were engaged in this kind of ethnographic research, but they also create some exhibitions, for example, so they have an active role in this kind of project. And so this is really another approach where there is no excavation, but the project really focuses on archaeological methodologies and then on the exhibition of the results in a sort of museum environment. The last one, the last project I mentioned is HumanEng, that is a pilot project about archaeology, well-being and creativity that was run in Stone Age and Avebury between 2016 and 2018. Of course, this project involves people living in mental health projects, and the focus was this kind of journeys of discovery through ancient landscape. So basically, thanks to a series of events and workshop over 10 weeks, archaeologists created some kind of really specific initiatives through which this kind of the participants can enjoy the landscape thanks to different activities. For example, they here they are dancing around yeah, an important site. I mean, now I don't know which is the site, but one of the activities was dancing. Then another activities, for example, was looking at the sky during nights with some also with some and this provide people with stimulation for new discussions about yeah, the past and also the present, how ancient people, for example, looked at the sky and the role, for example, of the night. I mean, how different was the night in the past and in the present. So basically, archaeology here works as a driver, as a trigger for for new discussions, for starting, for provide simulations to these people who are involved in this project. And then I come to LOGGIA, a project on which I am currently working, linking community archaeology and well-being in the Mediterranean. And this project is, of course, a Marie Curie postdoctoral fellowship, and it is something that it is like the last step in my career as a public archaeologist. I have an experience, a lot of experiences working with children, with also local associations, museums, excavations, and but this project has also personal connection because my father was a psychiatrist, and so in my experiences when I was a child and a teenager, I got engaged many times. I have discussion with these with people, with users, I would say. I don't like the term patients. I did a lot of activities with them, doing sports, playing football, and also providing some guided tours to museums. So I mean, this kind of project sometimes, most of times, from what I've heard also from other archaeologists who are working with well-being, yeah, there is a personal connection that really drives you to start this kind of project. The last quote from this evening, I would like to remind, to highlight that heritage is a cultural process of performance of meaning making, and therefore it becomes not a thing or a place, but an intangible process in which social and cultural values are identified, negotiated, rejected, or affirmed. I think in the context of archaeology and well-being, and in the context of my project, what I want to try to achieve also is that to show to archaeologists, to the participants, that basically, depending on the way we approach a cultural site, cultural heritage, also intangible cultural heritage, this can really, we can really attach different meanings, different values to them, also different over time. I mean, when I was a student, for me, the excavation of Vignale, where I worked a lot of years, was like, okay, this is the first excavation, and for me, it's a way, it's the place where I try to learn how to excavate, but now has a totally different meaning. And for example, yeah, now I'm working with, I'm going to work with people with mental health disease. And so basically it has become something very different than a place for digging. But now over the last year, I think I never managed to spend a lot of time digging there, but it became in a venue, a place for other projects. And for like me, as archaeologists, in my personal experience, also other participants, other people who work with us as non-archaeologists in Vignale can attach other values to the site, depending on the way we approach it. After this introduction, I just provide some information about LOGGIA. It is a research project exploring how archaeology can contribute to the well-being of vulnerable groups. It conceives archaeology as a means of promoting inclusion and enabling people to connect with the past and activating their interests and memories. The main objective of the project is to work on community well-being, and that means that I would like the approach is to have many people working together, doing together these activities, getting engaged with archaeology in the same way, but starting from different background. Like I will start with activities with people with mental health problems, but they will be together with their families, with their carers, but also with people from local associations or people, citizens who are who join because they like archaeology. So in this way, we want to measure, we want to evaluate how archaeology can impact the community well-being of the group. So in this way, I think it is quite different from the previous project that I showed to you that were really focused on individual well-being, so on the individual impact of these activities on individual person. The focus will be on the Mediterranean because, as I showed you before, I mean, most of the projects have been carried out in England or also in the US, in Australia, but in the Mediterranean, the research approach on archaeology and well-being needs still to be addressed and developed. So, and of course, I'm from Italy, so I'm Italian archaeologist. So I really want to promote this kind of projects also in my area. And as last part of my research, I will work also with on a digital environment and to check if this can contribute or not to the inclusion of persons with disability and their well-being. So LOGGIA places, the places where LOGGIA is going to work, of course, Trinity College Dublin, Department of Classics is the host institution, then Vignale and the Xeros Valley in Cyprus. Starting from Vignale, very briefly, Vignale is an archaeological site in Tuscany, in Italy, and it is an archaeological site with a long history spanning from the 3rd century BC to the 6th century AD. And there are a lot of stories to tell, starting from this mosaic from the 4th century AD with the god Ion in the middle, the 4 seasons on the 4 corners. Of course, this is an early stage of the excavation, but this is one of the, of course, main main findings of the project. The project started as a rescue excavation in 2003 and is directed by Professor Enrico Zanini and Elisabetta Giorgi from the University of Siena. This is the site. It's a very huge site, and one of the main assets of this site is the presence of the road, because people driving on the road can see archaeologists working, and then they stop on the edge of the road and they come to us, they ask what is going on here. And in this way, we started a lot of collaborations. In fact, the project became from a normal excavation project for students, became a project working with people, a public share in the sustainable research project as a aims. Some characteristics, of course, are, as I just mentioned, the excavation as a contact zone where encounters with people, non-archaeologists happen. And then we have the support of the this is an example for excavation as a contact zone. So the same people coming a distance of years with the uncle Mario and his nephew, and we can see how they come repeatedly to the site to know more about the excavation because they are really interested in it. So they are more the kind of receptive participants because they just like to hear from us the news of the site. And then we have the support of the local communities. So all these people here really help us in each year to carry out the excavation campaign by providing archaeologists with a place where to sleep. This guy here with that is the owner of a touristic facility, and then we have some supermarket chain offering us foods. And then there are this person here, Giuseppe, who comes to the site, and if there is anything broken, any equipment broken, he wants to replace it, and so on. So this is the kind of approach that we have been developing in Vignale in the last 15 years. And so this is because we really managed to involve the groups, the local groups, starting from the school. I was this morning in the school in Rio Torto, in the village next to Vignale, with this teacher here doing some activities. And here they are on the excavation, looking at a sort of theatrical reconstructions of the arrival of a traveler through the ancient Roman road here, entering the Manzio, the ancient post station that is located on the site. And then we also, as archaeologists, participate in local events, supporting the associations who helped us with the excavation, with their events. So this is very important because archaeologists become part of the local society. Archaeologists become part of the local society. And this is why, I mean, I've been working in this site for a lot of years. I know the people, I know the community. I did my PhD research on this site. So this was was very easy for me to use it as a case studies for LOGGIA, because I have a very strong connection with the community. And I already did some evaluation on the site. So the extension of our activities to include also people with mental health issue was in line with the approach of Uomini e Cose a Vignale to archaeology. So basically, I'm now in the planning activities of my project, in the planning phase of my project, and I partnered with the mental health unit of the local hospital, and we are going to work with people in stable condition, family and carers, but also, as I said before, local association and local citizen. And the doctors asked me to provide participants with stimulation, both cognitive and physical, because they really struggle to get engaged with some to have their interests, to fulfill their interest in life. So archaeologists can really provide some stimulations. So some ideas are the following. So engage with the archaeology of Vignale through creative approaches. It means for that probably they are going to work with a medieval, the medieval part of the site, cleaning some walls, because in Italy non-archaeologists cannot dig, and then getting engaged with this piece of wall, also beyond the physical activities, also through some storytelling. So we are going to build together a narrative on this wall, and then having probably a final events where we show this kind of media that we are going to produce with them. In Cyprus, this is the last part of the presentation. It's a different case study because here the valley has a long history, starting from since the Neolithic, but then in the last, before the 1974 invasion, there were a lot of conflict and violence between the Greek and the Turkish Cypriot communities. And then following the invasion, Turkish Cypriot quarters have been abandoned due to population movement. So there are a lot of heritage sites and landmarks that heritage site which works as landmarks of collective memories. And then the research ongoing is the name of the project is Settled and Sacred Landscapes of Cyprus, which is an archaeological field research, which started in 2014. And the project started already working with the local communities, promoting the valley here with the local communities, public conference in July 2021. And then they started promoting also the valley and its heritage with guided tours and an app, which we evaluated also. And then they also do some activities with children and with the local communities. And then they started also dealing with the conflict in the recent past of the valley in a bit indirect way, but very good way, I think, because they did some exhibitions based on memoryscapes and the sacred landscape of the valley, which is very evident through churches, and most of all, who are really, there are a lot of churches in this valley, and they are really visible. So they worked a lot with this memoryscape from the Turkish Cypriot communities, and also with the, of course, with the concept of abandonment, because a lot of these monuments are destroyed or abandonment following the various periods of violence which the valley experienced over the last, before the 1974 invasion. Given this context, we tried to start planning the activities also for the Xeros Valley, even if this needs a bit more work than the previous example. And we partnered with the Cyprus Alliance for Rare Disorders, the Cyprus Institute of Neurology and Genetics, because we want to work with people suffering from the Huntington disease. So we really need support from the healthcare sector partners, and also, of course, with their families and carers and local communities, such as in Vignale, to create this kind of group. These groups will won't be large. probably from 10 to 15 people in order to have a good control and have the activities have a good control on the activities, let's say this way, and have the personnel needed to take care of everybody. And then the partner asked me to keep the participants active and find spaces of interaction and dialogues, because these people, patients, basically users, they used to talk only among each other, and it is very beneficial to them when they can have when they can interact with other people. And so this is something that we will try to achieve by organizing the activity together and getting them engaged with the memoryscape, the second landscape, and the concept of abandonment of the valley. Of course, this part is very work in progress, but we tried to have a trial activities on this topic at the European Huntington Disease Network annual meeting in Bologna last September. So basically, we grouped together some users, people suffering from the disease, their families, some professionals, and family. Families I already mentioned. Sorry, and then we try to engage them in with discussion on the concept of abandonment, with specific reference to abandonment in archaeology. So we selected 5 photographs from an exhibition ongoing at the meeting called Abandonment from Landscape to Manscapes, that is based the Xeros on the landscape of the Xeros Valley. And we let them choose one photo, and then we provide them with some prompts on which they can start discussing about what was in the photo. So basically, for example, there was a lighthouse, an ancient lighthouse in ruins, or there was like an old chair on the beach. And from these inputs, they started talking about their personal experiences, and together, merging them together, combining with the archaeology. And it was really, we received very positive feedback, because, of course, first one was the fact that they can really talk freely with no limitation with other people. And then also an indirect positive feedback was from the discussion that we have at the end, when each group of people have concluded the discussion. We all together discussed about the focus of discussion of each group. So it was very good, because they started starting providing some reflections about abandonment as their personal experience, but also comparing to what they saw in the photo, and they can see sometime in the photo the dark, the bright colors, and they try to associate them with the dark periods and good periods. And then it was very, very, for me, something new, because this was my first experience with this kind of people. But I mean, they really asked for more. So it's a trial activities on which we're going to build the next activities in the Xeros Valley. To conclude, I think I want to conclude with this quotation that is not from an archaeologist. Robert Macfarlane is a scholar, but it's not an archaeology. And he says that dissonance is produced by any landscape that enchants in the present, but has been a site of violence in the past. But to read such a place only for its dark histories is to disallow its possibility for future life, to deny reparation or hope. And this is another kind of oppression. So in a way, I like to work in the Xeros Valley with these people because by getting engaged with the past, the conflicted past of the valley through abandonment, they can also reflect on their own condition and try to also and give the possibility to the landscape to provide them with good feelings, with good vibes, and hopefully healthy vibes, and so to change at least for them the connotation of the valley from troubled place, let's say, to an healthy and therapeutic place. So this is this could be, my project would be only a drop in the water, but I mean, could be this could be the approach that I would like to follow. So thanks a lot for your attention in this evening.